with my longtime friend, Barry Klein, and he's gonna show us some really great techniques for making a scarf in a really unusual way. I'm so happy to see you, Barry.
Thanks, Vicki. It's great to be here with you. Well, it is all about miters. And as you know, you're a great knitter. Miters are normally done as diamonds.
Right.
So you start with a cast on with one decrease in the middle, and it shapes
and it
up.
comes together.
Like a diamond.
Right.
And what we've done here is we've created a new way of doing it, and they're called double miters. And what a double miter does is it puts a miter on each corner, and it miters up. And so it creates a rectangle. It's double wide, and short on the sides.
Right.
Okay?
Well, let's take a look at it.
Perfect. So across the top, we've got our original. And what's fun about it is that we've used a self-striping yarn. So it's a
gorgeous.
yarn that changes colors all on its own. And the top layer is one colorway. And what I love about doing this technique is I want the yarn to do the work. It's kind of my little thing, my motto, is you don't have to sweat about it. You don't have to go crazy. Let the yarn do the work.
Right.
And so I've put some other color combinations, some other yarns together across the top of the table. And in this instance here, what we've got is one yarn, some metallic and gold, some in silver, but it's all solid colors. And when you're doing solids, you get something similar to this. So that
It's a totally different look.
right. And
Right.
again, you can see that would have been one miter. Now you've got the double miter as the rectangle. You've got your cast on edge with your double miters, and then they're all connected together. And so the self-striping yarn is this one here, and you can see this is one colorway, and what will happen as you knit it is each of the colorways will come out.
Right.
And the yarn
right.
gets to do the work.
And these are just gorgeous. And I also love, I love that you've worked this piece in Garter Stitch. I'm kind of obsessed with Garter Stitch. There was such a sort of snobbery about it before.
Right.
I just think it's so modern. Like it's just beautiful. And it really tells a story of the yarn, I think.
What I love about Garter Stitch is that the decrease or the miter that you're doing, you can see it in the original. It sits on top. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it looks like a design feature. It almost looks like you went over with a crochet hook and created, you know, an additional design feature, and you're doing it as you go.
Exactly.
Which I love.
Well, and most people don't like the M word, the math word, but mathematically.
How dare you say that on the set?
Sorry.
How dare you say
Smack me for
math?
that one. You can't do it any other way but in Garter Stitch. If you do it in stockinette, the ratio of stitch gauge to row gauge doesn't work.
Oh,
So it
that
has
makes
to be
absolute
Garter
sense.
Stitch.
Okay,
Right.
because the width and the height of a knit stitch is different than, or layers of knit stitch is different than layers of knit and purl stitch.
Right, right.
Right,
So it's all
okay,
about
that makes sense.
the ratio mathematically.
Oh, math.
And then you can also use yarns where there's textures all inside the yarn. And so the texture changes to create the miters.
Right, and the little bobbins kind of come, or the little nubs kind of poke through with this yarn, which is fun. It's just another architectural detail.
And it's the beauty of Garter Stitch is that the yarn, the textures come out on both sides.
Right.
Makes them equal. And then you can also do things where you've mixed fibers. So in this instance, I've used a brush mohair and a self-striping yarn. And I've done 2-row stripes. And you just carry your yarns. They're carried right up the side, and it doesn't make a difference. There's no tails, extra tails to have to bury.
That's great. And you've got mohair and metallics are both just very on trend and just beautiful. Well, take us to it.
So here's a little visual on it. So here's one double miter. So your cast on edge is the outside edge, and in the corners you're putting one extra stitch.
Okay.
And that becomes your miter. And you can either stack your miters, so you do one, and the other one comes up on top, or you can do them side by side, almost like a choo-choo train.
Very
and that's
cool.
what 3 of them would look like. And to show you how it looks when it's knit.
It's very architectural.
Right. That's our 3 miters right there.
I love it.
And as you can see here, the beauty of it is that there's no sewing it together.
I love that.
It's all continued.
Which
one
means
off of
no
the other.
ends to weave in.
That's right. And no extra tails, no crazy finishing.
Right.
So what I want to do is show you the technique of
I would love
doing
that.
the
Let's
double
see
miters.
it. Let's see it. Can I move this out of the way for you?
Yep.
Okay.
That's great. All right. So I have one already done, set up. This was my cast on all the way along the edge. And in each corner is my double miter. So I'm ready to do my miter row.
Okay.
And so I'm just doing, again, Garter Stitch is just plain knit. My needle goes in, wrapped over, and I just keep going. And again, the nice part about this is that it's very visual. What you're going to do is you work until one before your knit stitch, and the knit stitch is the stitch that sits on top. And you put your needle in through 2 stitches, slip them off as if to knit, knit 1, and then you put your needle in and pick up the 2 that you slipped and pass them over.
Oh, it's a double decrease.
And it's a double decrease. And then you just continue working up
and then
to the next one.
And then you work to the next one. Okay.
Right.
Let's make sure that we show the great part that I love, the no ends part.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to come back to the original. And so it's a total of 57 stitches.
Okay.
Okay. So there's 19 along the edge, and I've cast on the rest. So part of it's cast on, and now we just pick up stitches to join it. And I take my knit piece and I go right into the edge, and you want to make sure you catch the whole V. So I've got the whole V on there.
So you can see the whole V of the stitch right there.
Right.
Great.
Wrap the yarn over and hopefully come right through. And there's one. And now I'm just going to continue that process. There's my whole V right on the needle. Wrap the yarn over the needle and pick it up. And you're matching stitch for stitch all the way up the edge.
Okay, great.
And so when you're all done, it will be joined and merged and no sewing together at the end.
Okay, great. Why don't we speak a little bit more to how you can, when you pick up the stitches, it automatically is going to go in this pattern. This triangle. You see a triangle. We're saying rectangle, but you see a triangle. And you could swap it the other way. So would you just pick the stitches up on the opposite end if you wanted the triangle, we'll call it, to be upside down?
Okay, so what happens is where they touch is where they're picked up.
Perfect.
So you
That's
would
easy.
cast on 19, pick up across, and cast on 19. And then they're merged, going one on top of the other.
I think that's great. This is so beautiful and, easy but cool. I love easy but cool.
Exactly.
Well, it's always great to hang out with you.
Thanks,
and so
Vicki.
thank you for showing this really cool technique. And next up we have Tanis, who's going to show us tons of yarns that are perfect for shawls and scarves.